goes. There it is. Here we go. Okay. All right, cool. All right, so we are on live. Yay! We read, we talk, we discuss. I give my perspective, my advice, my experience, all of that stuff. Cassidy's like, Ferny, I was going to ask if you're starting with a cold. I get those virus energies around you. Take some supplements and some tea. You know what's interesting? I've actually been doing exactly that, like in the last few days, where I've been like taking more of those things. Instinctually, my body's already doing that. The thing about it is, I don't know where I would get a cold from because I'm not around people other than allergies. Now, I do think allergies right now are busting my ass, so I am definitely experiencing allergies, more nasal and sinus stuff, etc. But what you're picking up on sometimes when I'm pushing myself a little too hard, or I'm going through allergies and then I've got this, and then I take myself just a little bit past my limit, I will get sick, and I will start to feel like the same symptoms as being sick. But then it goes away. Like I'll recover from it, or it'll go away. So, but I'm doing that. I'm doing it. So you're picking up on something I'm just focusing in on more in the last few days. All right, guys. So for those of you tuning in, remember, this is the study group time. So if you're tuning in for a reading, that was in the last hour. So now it's just study group. So only questions that pertain to the material, which we're doing the secret, or to spiritual matters or topics. Any personal questions or readings, that was in the last hour. So I won't be doing it in this hour. Okay. Thank you, Cassidy. Awesome. All right, cool. Okay, so let me get going here. My stomach's like getting all like it's like this, like, oh, so it's starting to feel this way as well. All right, so let's start here. So I'm on page 85. So for those of you following along, I am on page 85. So the teachers of the secret are all aware of the elements you bring into play when you visualize. As you see the picture in your mind and feel it, you are bringing yourself to a place of believing you have it now. You are also implementing trust and faith in the universe because you are focusing on the end result and experiencing the feeling of that without giving any attention whatsoever to how it will come about. Your picture in your mind is seeing it as done. Your feelings are seeing it as done. Your mind and your entire state of being are seeing it as already happened. That is the art of visualization. You want to do this virtually daily, but it should never be a chore. What's really important to the whole secret is feeling good. You want to feel exhilarated by this whole process. You want to be high, happy, in tune as much as possible. Everyone has the power to visualize. Let me prove it to you with a picture of a kitchen. For this to work, first of all, you have to get all thoughts of your kitchen out of your mind. Do not think of your kitchen. Totally clear your mind of pictures of your kitchen, with its cupboards, refrigerator, oven, tiles, and color scheme. You saw a picture of your kitchen in your mind, didn't you? Well, then you just visualize, which is also another word for a type of clairvoyance, because people don't realize that visualization is also memorial. It's also using memory. And so clairvoyance, or the ability to see something, it doesn't have to be in front of you. A lot of psychics and mediums are obsessed with seeing something physical. And I'm like, dude, get over it. See it in your head. Your head is really good at visualizing and using your memory to visualize things. So that's going to be the easiest way for you to see something. Then if you get good enough and you refine your ability enough, you may build enough of a charge that you'll start to see some things physically. But this world is designed, this world is designed to be physical. Our physical bodies, our spirit is designed to condense itself and to fix it and focus through a physical body to see it from that perspective. And so and this is what my dear Ferny was about this week, trying to see some visual phenomena or visual things because you want to see it in a visual way is like swimming upstream. It doesn't mean it can't happen. It just means it takes a lot of energy, and you have to be in sync with what the effort is from the spirit side of things. Okay. Here's a tip about visualizing, which Dr. John DeMartini shares in his breakthrough experience seminars. John said that if you create a static picture in your mind, it can be difficult to hold that picture, so create lots of movement in your picture. To illustrate this, imagine your kitchen again, and this time imagine yourself entering that kitchen, walking to the refrigerator, putting your hand on the door handle, opening the door, looking inside, and finding a cold bottle of water. Reach in and grab it. You have the bottle of water in one hand, and you use your other hand to close the refrigerator door. Now that you are visualizing your kitchen with detail and movement, it's easier to see and hold the picture, isn't it? Well, we all possess more power and greater possibilities than we realize, and visualizing is one of the greatest of these powers. The only difference between people who live in this way, who live in the magic of life, and those who don't, is that the people who live in the magic of life have habituated ways of being. They've made it a habit of using the law of attraction, and magic happens, and with them wherever they go, because they remember to use it. They use it all the time, not just as a one-time event, which is what I tell you guys whenever I give y'all an example of these experiences that I have, where there's always these like magical experiences that happen in my life, and I always share it as often as possible because I want to give y'all an example of what this looks like in a real world scenario. So whenever, when that coin showed up, and my experience with the coin was one example. With the foot thing that I got in the mail suddenly, like that's another example. Finding things and then seeing things line up is another example. So I try to give people as often as possible an example in real world scenarios so that they know what it looks like, because a lot of people, they conceptualize these things, but their expectations are built up. People always love to build things up beyond something that is actually achievable, or something that is practical, achievable, or that you can relate to. If you build something up beyond what you can relate to, then the likelihood of you being able to achieve it or receive it or experience it is really low. But if you can turn something into a experience or into something that you can relate to, and that you can definitely see yourself achieving, the likelihood of doing so is a lot higher. Yeah. So here are two true stories that clearly demonstrate the powerful law of attraction and the immaculate matrix of the universe in action. The first story is about a woman named Jeannie. It's funny because Jeannie was one of the names that kept coming up today during one of my readings in like my earlier sessions, my private sessions. And so Jeannie kept coming. I was like, why did Jeannie keep coming up? And I kept trying to figure out what the spirit that was connected to that, but named Jeannie. So the first story is about a woman named Jeannie who brought a DVD of The Secret and was watching it at least once a day so that she would absorb the message right into the cells of her body. She was particularly impressed with Bob Proctor, and she thought it would be wonderful to meet him. One morning, Janine collected her mail, and to her utter amazement, the mailman had accidentally delivered Bob Proctor's mail to her address. Hold on, they're talking about the mail, so let me go back to this. One morning, Jeannie collected her mail, and to her utter amazement, the mailman had accidentally delivered Bob Proctor's mail to her address. What Jeannie didn't know is that Bob Proctor lived just 4 blocks away from her. Not only that, but Jeannie's house number was the same number as Bob's. She immediately took the mail to deliver it to the correct address. Can you imagine her utter delight when the door opened and Bob Proctor was standing before her? Bob is rarely at home as he travels all over the world teaching, but the matrix of the universe knows only perfect timing. From Jeannie's thought of how wonderful it would be to meet Bob Proctor, the law of attraction moved people, circumstances, and events throughout the universe so that it happened. The second story involves a 10-year-old boy named Colin who had seen and loved The Secret. Colin's family made a week-long visit to Disneyland, and on their first day, they experienced long lines at the park. So that night, just before Colin fell asleep, he thought, tomorrow I'd love to go on all the big rides and never have to wait in line. The next morning, Colin and his family were at the gates of Epcot Center as the park opened, and a Disney staff member approached and asked them if they would be if they would be Epcot's first family of the day. As first family, they would be given VIP status, a special escort by a staff member, and walk-in and walk-on passes for every big ride in Epcot. It was everything and more that Colin had wished for. Hundreds of families were waiting to enter Epcot that morning, but Colin didn't have the slightest doubt as to why his family has been chosen first family. He knew it was because he had used the secret. Here's another example of this. So and this, I guess you can consider this telepathy, but I would consider it, law of attraction as well. Because, all of these experiences that we have, even when you're psychically tuning into something, does utilize an aspect or a version of law of attraction, because you have to align perfectly with the flow of energy or information so that you have the most precise version of it. And so you're either drawing yourself to the elements to bring it into fruition, but you are also getting the information through the channel or through the flow of your own ability as well. But like a few days ago, about 3 or 4 days ago, I was just like doing my own thing or whatever, and I kept feeling the need or the urge to check in with my girls group, which here in my neighborhood, there's a group of women and several older women that I get together with, or I was getting together with before the pandemic. But we would get together, and there's 4 of us total. But we would get together, we would try to get together once a month to talk about spirituality and to talk about aliens and UFOs and stuff. Especially here in New Mexico where I'm at, you definitely have an opportunity to see UFOs. But we would get together to just chit chat and connect and feel connection, and so we keep in touch through an app. And because I just recently upgraded my phone to a new phone, I had not checked that app since I got the new phone, nor did I feel the need to, because I would assume that if they were going to send a message, I would get the message. So what ended up happening was that a few days ago, about 3-4 days ago, I felt the need to want to check that. And I even told myself, I need to go check to see if, how the girls are doing or what's going on with them. Because I haven't heard from them in a while, and it's time, I felt the need to connect. And specifically in my head, I kept thinking of one member in that group. So I kept thinking about her, and I was like, okay, I'll do it tomorrow. And that's an issue with me. Like sometimes I'm a procrastinator. Sometimes when it's not a must do, I can procrastinate like up the wazoo. So like for me, work, client appointments, doing the lives, doing the study group, those are like must do's. For me, like all these extra things are things that I procrastinate with. So I don't always move very quickly, and that's okay. I enjoy having a leisurely enough lifestyle that I can move slower and I can just go at my own pace instead of having to feel like I have to rush into everything. I've worked really hard just to get to that level of having that kind of a life. But so I thought, I'll check into it tomorrow or whatever. And for people who have followed along with me, y'all already know that for me, having any extra human connection outside of the work that I do is a lot of effort for me, because it takes a lot more effort and energy to engage with people. So when I'm done working, the only people that I tend to engage with are my partner and my cats. That's it. And then I call my mom once a week. So I usually don't engage with everybody else as often. So for me, pushing myself to communicate is just harder, just because I'm used up a lot. And so it's hard for me to get that energy to kind of connect with people, because it doesn't matter whether it's just talking. There's energy exchanged between me and people. So it's part of the job description. Whenever you are a sensitive individual and you make yourself more sensitive to people's and human energy, you're more sensitive to people and human energy. So it is more impactful for you, and it takes more from you. And not only that, but I go into every connection and connecting with every human being. I try to go into it with an open heart and with an authentic, vulnerable heart, because I want to give them a version of me that is authentic and real and, to the core, not a contrived version of me. Anyways, back to my story. So I felt the need to connect to them, and I hadn't. And then the next day I was like, I need to connect with him. So I was telling myself this for like several days in a row. And then yesterday I was like, I need to get on there, because, and the pressure was even more. So I got on there, and sure enough, there was a message from the girls, but I never saw it. And it was sent on Tuesday, which was the day after I started feeling this desire to connect with them. And so there was a message on Tuesday, and one of them needed a favor because they were going to be going out of town. and they were asking me for the favor, but I totally missed the message because I didn't realize with the app that once you get a new phone, you have to recertify your number or whatever. I was like, so I missed it. So I reached out and I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I didn't even realize I had a message. We just got our new phones. And so I had not even checked in, but I'm here and I'm available if you need me for my help. She was offering to pay me. I was like, you don't have to pay me. I'll do it, whatever. So, it was just, but that was the pull. So you can consider that to be, a telepathic connection, and I was picking up on it psychically, but it's also a law of attraction thing because it keeps coming back, and I'm being summoned and pulled. And so there's that pull that's happening there, and it works with law of attraction as well. There's a pull that comes to you that pulls you to certain things or to do certain things, even if you don't realize that you're doing it for a reason. Right before the pandemic happened and everything started to shut down, all these stores were running out of food. I had already been building a stockpile of food. I bought an extra freezer, I bought solar panels. I did all this extra stuff, not realizing why. And even my partner, when he would ask me, why are you spending money on that? Or why are you doing that? We don't need that. That's extra stuff. That's extra junk. And I was always like, well, just in case there's, just in case there's the apocalypse and then we have this crap. And maybe what if the electric grid goes down, or what if there's no food in the grocery stores, or what if there's a disruption to the supply chain, then we have stuff. And he would even respond like, and this was again before the pandemic, when would something like that ever happen? When has something like that ever happened other than like a hurricane, and it's only for like a week or two? So when would that ever be the case? Where and then the pandemic happened. So we already know shit can happen, right? That's a reality that can happen. So just that way with that. I'm gonna stop here because I'm still got a headache and like I'm having trouble like reading. So I'm gonna stop there, and we can stop there so we can talk about this. But let me go over because I want to see what you guys are asking me about this. Yeah, Cassidy, I've had the same experience. I've had the same feeling that there might be more disruptions to the supply chain. So I've had the same feeling. And actually, because I did load up so much, I've been trying to like offload and like bring that down because I don't want to have all this extra stuff, And so I've been trying to like get through it. But every time I do it, the voice in my head says, don't get too comfortable because you might need to move quickly if you're going to need extra food. And I was like, so it's like there's an inner battle happening inside of me with that. So it's like I'm trying to trust my intuition. At the same time, I sometimes question if that voice is the intuition or just my fear talking about, being left out and not having, and then like, trying to like move quickly to like get supplies. So I was like, so there's an inner battle happening. But yeah, I'm having the same experience as well. So, but I do expect that there's going to be disruptions to the supply chain. So I'm not planning on like not having supplies. I actually have plenty of supplies. I think I have too much supplies, but it's fine. I would rather have too much than not enough, but I just don't need to have so much. Yeah, it's fun, Cassie. It's really cool. Like, when you are able to surround yourself with people and that you have something in common with and get together, it's very good to nurture each other, even if you're all different and you don't always agree 100% on everything. But it's nice when you agree on like 80% of whatever it is that you're coming together around. As long as you can agree on 80% of it, you're good. But it's don't fixate on the parts that you can't agree on, but focus on the parts that you can, as long as it's the dominant or the primary, thing that y'all are on the same page about. It's nice. You can try to like put one together. There used to be meetups. People still use meetups. Like back when I was first starting to train with my psychic abilities, I used to go through, like Ingrid, who is a friend of mine. She was one of my first psychic teachers because she used to hold a meetup in Houston once a month, and so I would actually go and I would go and sit in on the meetups, and that's where I had some of my first intentional psychic experiences. So I remember one of the exercises she had us do is she paired us up, and then we were supposed to hold each other's palms, or the person that was going to be the reader to put their hands on the other person while the other person just has their palms up. And so that person was supposed to sense anything that may be connected to that person. So the first time I did it, there was a guy, and it was me and him. And I I've always been uncomfortable around males in general. It doesn't matter whether they're gay, straight, or whatever. But straight men, definitely, I've always been uncomfortable because growing up being teased and being like completely tortured by straight men and that toxic masculinity, it's always something that stayed with me. So it took me a long time to get comfortable with just communicating and connecting with males, with just even straight men, to feel comfortable enough to do so. And even with like gay males now, like I for a longest time would be very uncomfortable around gay men, just because not only am I already uncomfortable with males, but then you add the extra layer of the physical attraction, which is already built in with a gay man. So it's like, oh crap, like I may have an attraction to someone. So that adds like a layer of complexity to it. But the first time I did the exercise, I remember, because I shocked myself. I was like, what? I was like, oh my gosh, I got this down. Years ago, remember, this was years ago when I first started. But I put my hands on, and we're supposed to describe the first thing that comes to mind when we close our mind and go into our mental space. So I closed my mind, went into my mental space, and what I saw a tree, and then I saw someone chop the tree go down, and then all I saw was a stump. And so that was it. That's all I saw. And I was like, I don't know what this means, but this is the symbol, or this is what I'm seeing. And then I explained it to the guy, and the guy laughed, and he was like, well, I'm a landscaper, and I actually go and cut trees for a living. So I was like, oh, cool. So it was just the funniest thing, but it was like the coolest experience. But it was through a meetup group. And so now people can like start their own meetup groups and get together with people. I used to go to another meetup group at a tea shop, and we used to talk about law of attraction and Abraham and all of this stuff, So it was an enjoyable experience. But you can start your own in your own community. You don't have to wait for one to show up. And it's funny because when I first started my psychic experiences, the training with Ingrid, after a few months, she wasn't going to do it anymore. She's going to take a break and no longer do it. And I was like kind of heartbroken because I wanted to keep doing it. And then she asked me, she's like, are you ready to teach? And I was like, no, I just started this lesson. Like, I'm like, you've been doing this for years. I just started this. I'm not, no, I don't. So it was a weird, opportunity that I turned down, which now I know myself and I know I can teach. But it's like back then I was like, I didn't have enough confidence in my abilities. So. There's another genie. See, there's another genie. That name today has been popping up left and right. And my mom has a cousin named Jeannie. I wonder if my mom's cousin is okay. Let's go over here. We were actually about to start when I work because a few of us like-minded people there, and then COVID came back. Yeah. I mean, you can still do it online. You don't have to do it in person. I mean, it's great doing stuff in person. Don't get me wrong. I enjoyed them. But at the same time, I've gotten so comfortable being away from heavy populations that for me, the online connection is just so much easier and much more effective to just get it done. And so I just prefer it. But it doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter. Christina, I say, what's your advice on or Xtina? I mean, if I said it, if it is Christina, then, then that's what we'll go with. What's your advice on The Secret or tapping into that wishful thinking and creating a better opportunity for the universe to provide? Here's the thing. I found this works for me with my psychic abilities as well. When you ask a psychic a yes or no question, automatically you engage with the ego. The ego immediately shuts on and starts fighting with the psychic's mind because it doesn't want to be wrong. It wants to be right, and it wants to receive praise. It's part of the ego's job, is to, focus on itself. So when you ask a psychic a yes or no question, you automatically trigger the ego to switch on. And then at that point, the likelihood of the psychic getting it right is going to go down. Just because of the ego. Once you get the ego involved, then at that point, the psychic stops using their actual sensing ability and they start just trying to get the right answer. And at that point, you can forget to get the right answer. What I do when someone asks me a yes or no question is I don't engage the actual yes or no part of that question. I reword the question in a different way to bypass it so I can go around that that situation. So whenever someone asks me, am I going to get this job? Yes or no? And what I ask myself is, oh no, I'm not going to ask myself, I'm not going to put I try to avoid getting in that state where my ego gets triggered, because by human default, it just goes on because that automatically triggers it. So automatically when someone asks me that, I don't ask myself that question. I actually change the question in my head. So I ask myself, when do I see a job change for them? Because if they're going to have a job change within a month or two, the likelihood that they're going to get that job is probably yes. But if they're not going to get a job until like 7 months down the road, then the likelihood of them getting that job is no. So what I usually do is I will tell them, I will reword it in my head. Okay, they want to know, are they going to get this job? Yes or no? And then what I do is I reword it. Okay, when do I see a job change for them? So I completely ignore the yes or no question. I reword it, and then I ask myself, when do I see a job change? That gives me permission to not constrict my understanding of their life situation by their terms. Instead, I give myself freedom to kind of go forward into the future and look for any changes or variations within the energy of their job. So then when I flash forward and I'm like, okay, I'm seeing something like in April or May, and then I describe what I'm seeing, and then I tell them what I'm assuming based off of what I'm seeing, which will usually answer the question for them. So that's my way around it. So I can not trigger the ego. I can keep the ego in check, but I can still give them some information they can use to their advantage. So if I ask myself that, and then I see it April or May or whatever, then I'll tell them, I'm seeing a job change for you in April or May. So my thinking is that either you're going to have a job change at that time, which means you might not get the one you're trying now, or there may have to be a delay in when you may actually be able to start if you do get it, but it would not happen until like April or May, because that's when I see a job change. So I expect there to be a job change in April or May, but I don't know if this is the one you're going to get or there's a different one you're going to get at that time. Because when you explain to people what you're sensing and what you're getting, here's the thing, people want psychic ability to be a 100% accurate phenomena, and it's not. Just like everything else in life, it is not an 100% accurate type phenomena. Just like a doctor is not 100% accurate in his assessment or in his treatment of things, just like a meteorologist is 100%. No one in this reality, in this world, is able to be 100% certainty with anything. So to apply that expectation to psychics is unrealistic, and it's really shitty that we are even put in those situations. So what I do is I'm trying to restructure people's ideas about psychic ability, how it actually works, because even the skeptics are psychics. They just don't realize it because they're too caught up in their own bullshit. And so I am trying to shift the mindset around psychic ability and what this actually is versus what society, what culture, what everybody has been conditioned to think about what this is. And so that's what I'm trying to do. So that's why I am more open and I'm more expressive with what I'm sensing, because it gives people a chance to have the access to the information I'm getting and then telling them why I'm interpreting it in the way that I am versus assuming I'm 100% accurate and there's no failing in this ability. No, because that's setting myself up for a failure. And not only that, I'm going to set this expectation that I'm supposed to be 100% accurate all the time. And that at that point is, I'm going to shoot myself in the foot more often than not, because I know better. And I've seen enough of it in the world that I know that psychics are not 100% accurate, just like nothing in the world is 100% certain. So that's my approach to that. To come back to your question, by the way, because I didn't make my point. I was like, where am I going with this? I'm talking about psychic ability. So with law of attraction, there's a workaround. If you think you have to win the lottery to be able to be financially okay, then what you become is obsessive about winning the lottery. And then you start to focus too much on that, where you lose track of what you want it to actually produce for you. You're not seeking winning the lottery. You're seeking the opportunity to experience more financial freedom, or having the ability to not stress, not worry about money or finances. So what I focus on is I focus on the experience I'm trying to give myself, not the event that I think will bring me the experience. And the reason why I know that works is because that's exactly what happened to me. For a while, back when I was in Houston and I first started doing law of attraction, the first thing which most people who start doing it, the first thing they start focusing on is to attract more money or a chunk of money or winning the lottery or whatever. So that's what I started doing as well when I first started doing it. And what would happen was I would sit on my front porch and I would sit there and I would think to myself, okay, want to win the lottery, want to win the lottery, want to win the lottery. But I wouldn't just think about that. even though I would visualize that, I even drew a picture of myself winning like the lottery once. So I mean, I was really into it at the time. But I also would sit and wonder, okay, well, like if I won the lottery, what the hell would I do with it? Like, what am I gonna do with all that money? And so I have one big thing that I would do that is for people. And when I mean people, I mean like all of y'all. There's one big thing that I would do to put my stamp on this world that, hey, I was here, I gave it my go, and I offered people an opportunity to have something that I think this world needs. That's one thing that I came up with. But then I came up with a bunch of other things like, oh, my neighbor, her house needs to be painted and her roof needs to be redone because the color of her house is atrocious, and also because the roof is like caving in, so she needs that work done. So I would like to pay for that to be done for her house. I would like, and at that time we didn't have sidewalks in our proper sidewalks, so I would also have the sidewalk repaved so that way it looks nice. I would give myself a driveway. I would have someone come and completely like do the outside of the store across the street from my house over and repaint it so that there's not all that graffiti. That house across the street that is a complete dump, I would tear it down and use that for something different. The fourplex next door, I would try to buy it out and then turn it into like flip it into like a investment property. So I had all these things that I wanted to do had I won the lottery. Within 3 years of me doing that, all of those things got done without me having to be involved in any of it. The city of Houston offered to pay for my neighbor's roof to be done because she qualified for the program because she fell within the bracket of a program that they were offering. So they came and did her roof for her and also redid the outside of her house and repainted it. Then they were doing surveys of our neighborhood because, again, that was back when I lived in the hood. And so some of the streets in the neighborhood were going to be chosen or selected to have the streets repaved and to also have the sidewalks redone. And my street was one out of several blocks that was selected. The store across the street, new owners came along and painted over the graffiti. A investor bought the fourplex next to my house and they flipped it and turned it into an investment property. So all these things got done, and they were the same things that I wanted to do had I won the lottery. So that's my trick around that, which is if you are desiring something specific, instead of focusing on achieving or manifesting that specific thing, focus on the experience it grants you, and then just let your mind feel and live in that space. Don't worry about the thing that you think will bring it about. And what I've noticed is that when I live from that space and I operate from that space, which is all the time at this point, sometimes I'll have a bad, rough patch, but for the most part, I'm really good at sustaining this. But when I live from that space, the universe comes in and fills in the gap. And I don't have to worry about how something comes about. I just allow myself to feel the experience of what it's like to have this or that. And then the universe comes in and fills in the gap. That's how it works. So, that's how it works. So that's a way around it. So that's a trick. And it's the same trick that I use in my psychic ability with the yes or no questions. Instead of, focusing in on something, whether it's going to be right or wrong, same thing. Law of attraction. If you're going to focus on a thing, whether it's going to manifest or not, I just go around it instead. And that's my way to get what I need from it and achieve the result, the same result. And I give the control up to the universe as to how it's going to come about. Xtina. Oh, no, thank you. Oh, thank you for Cassie, I appreciate that. Yeah, I wrote a story that I want to read to y'all. And I'm starting to create stories. I want to say they're called parables because that's what it is a parable. And I was actually inspired to write this story by a friend because they were running into some issues with their own passion and they've made decisions that it's just not working in their benefit. So then I was inspired and I'm like, I'm going to write this story because I think it'll help people understand passion and how when you have a calling or when you're summoned to step up to the plate, don't outthink or think you can outthink the universe. Don't think that you know more than the universe or than God. Just follow the flow of your calling and you will see the result from that. Here's the story. I'm going to read it to you guys. So I'm going to include, this is going to be one of my stories in my spiritual book, y'all, that I was telling you about the other day. So the story is called An Obedience to Passion. And these are going to be how I do my and I know that Ray's gonna be like, so you were asking me like, how would I want to do the lectures, like weekly lecture, and once we're done with one of the book study days, this is how I would do it, right? So I would write a parable, an inspired story to help y'all understand the point. So the story of In Obedience to Passion. There once was a boy who was really good at cleaning fish. He was fast, and the customers at the marketplace always praised the quality of his work. Unfortunately, the boy hated it. It was tedious, dirty work, and each day he reeked of fish. The other fishermen gave him a hard time when it suited them, and the boy felt animosity often. But he was good at his work, and it felt wonderful to receive praise from his customers at the marketplace. The boy also had a passion for creating beautiful baskets. His baskets were complimented by his customers as well, though they had no interest in buying any during their daily shopping for the evening meal. The boy would often dream of weaving intricate basket patterns and would experience a tremendous amount of joy with every new design. His technique and the complexity of his patterns would improve with every attempt. He spent hours during his fish cleaning tasks, each day conceiving of a life where he could make baskets. Perhaps he could even open a basket shop in time. On one such occasion, the queen's chef came to the marketplace and offered a prize to all the fishermen. The cleanest, freshest, tastiest fish of the week would grant its fishermen an invitation as a dinner guest of the queen. This opportunity created quite a stir with the community, and the boy realized the possibility of sharing his dream with the queen. Perhaps he could convince her of granting him a basket weaving shop. He then spent each day doing what he had been good at, which was to prepare the fish. He even used more hours of his day toiling away in an attempt to find and prepare the freshest, cleanest, tastiest fish as an offering to the cook if he were to visit. His efforts caused him to forget his passion of weaving intricate baskets for a time, though he did not fret. It was his belief that his hard work would finally pay off and fate would smile upon him with a great challenge into his life. With a great change to his life. On the final day of the week, as the boy prepared his catch of the day in anticipation of the queen's cook, a neighboring fisherman approached his stand. The fisherman needed extra baskets to display his own offerings in preparation for the cook. He asked the boy if he could trade some of his own fish for several of the most intricate baskets, as the boy had not used them himself. The boy agreed, as he had no immediate need for them, and surely he could gain an advantage in preparing and presenting even more fish than he had caught himself. When the queen's cook arrived, he wandered about the marketplace and complimented the boy on his beautiful fish. These fish are very clean, commented the cook. They appeared fresh, and he indicated that he would make an excellent meal for the queen. As he began to negotiate a price, the cook noticed something extraordinary out of the corner of his eye. The intricate patterns in the basket of the fisherman whose stall stood right next to the boy's had captivated his attention. The cook was intrigued, and as his attention wavered away from the boy, the neighboring fisherman proclaimed that surely the queen would also enjoy such baskets to present food in her banquets. The cook, intrigued by the idea, turned to the neighboring fisherman and purchased the entire collection of baskets from his display. As a gesture of gratitude for such a marvelous idea, the cook extended an invitation to the fisherman for attendance to the queen's dinner that evening. The boy looked on, and his heart was broken. He did not understand how such a travesty could occur. The teaching of this story is to know that a passion is a thing of beauty which requires obedience and respect. You are granted caretaker of unique passions. If you do not heed the calling and take charge of such a responsibility, then you have betrayed your passion and the trust which was placed in you. You will lose your passion, opportunity for joy, and be gifted a broken heart in return. Honor the calling of your passion. That's the story. So like when you mentioned that, when you mentioned that, Cassidy, thank you for doing this, even though I feel bad. This is why I do it, because I know that if I don't honor the calling, if I don't honor the passion that I have to share with this world, even if I don't feel great, even if the calling is more important than the way that I feel, I must sacrifice myself to honor the calling, to honor the work, to honor what I am summoned to do in the moment. And what I know from experience is that when I was a teenager and I used to do readings for people, and I had built up a reputation in my area, and I was getting crazy calls from people all the time wanting readings and needing help, I was not prepared for what I was going to be facing with some of these individuals and these people. I wasn't prepared on how to handle these people, and I ended up becoming hurt and becoming hurt, and I was brokenhearted by some of the people that I dealt with. And because I suffered, I turned away from my ability, and I said, God, if people weren't going to respect what I have to offer, then I choose not to do it. And I lost my ability for 15 years, and it took me that long to get it back and to do it the way that I'm able to do it now. And I know better. So I know to honor the passion, to honor the calling. So when I run into people like my friend, who they have an obvious passion and they're incredibly talented and good at it, when they don't honor it and don't respect it for what it truly is, while you have people running around trying to figure out what their passion is or what they're summoned to do in this world, when you don't honor it, someone else will be granted that same honor and that same passion, and you will lose that opportunity to fulfill it. And so that is why I tell people it is so important that you honor what you're called to do, even if you're not comfortable doing it, even if it hurts, even if it's difficult to do it in the moment, because it is what it is. And so that's what I learned from experience, and then that's what the parable is about. So that's just an example of the kinds of stories I want to tell with the weekly lecture to help people understand, and then open it up to Q&A so that people can ask me about certain circumstances in their lives that they have similar situations or issues going on. And then of course it can roll into a conversation of spiritual understanding and aid for anybody through whatever I can help them with. I don't know everything. I don't pretend to know everything, but I know a hell of a lot, and I've experienced a hell of a lot that I can help people with. So, I'm going to turn it. It's going to be a coffee book that could be used as a children's book, but it's also going to be incorporated into the spiritual book, because these parables or stories are ways to help individuals understand very complex ideas and how the universe works, how things actually occur versus what we think occurs. If someone read that story and they said, well, that's not fair. That's there's no justice. He put all his work and effort into it and he lost out. This asshole next to his stall took his opportunity and ran with it. And I was like, yeah, because that fool was ready to rise to the calling, and that was his calling. That was the level of calling he was able to achieve for himself. The boy just sat around thinking that the hard work that he had been taught and conditioned to honor the hard work and honor the struggle, because that'll get you where you want to go. And that's not true. That is just, he's just because he's good at cleaning fish, just because he has been able to do it so well, just because it's maintained him, he thought that was going to be his exit and way out of his struggle and his suffering. And it would allow him and buy him an opportunity to do the passion. But he was already doing his passion. He just turned his back on it in a moment without raising it to the value of hey, this is what I love. This is what I love. And that's the thing. If you love something, if you feel a connection to something, then do it as often as possible. And if you can push yourself to do it in a public way, or in a way where others see you do it as well, at that point, there's a key that's unlocked. Because at that point, something has shifted inside of yourself. And that shift is the first step in asking the universe to give you more. And the universe is like, they're willing to step up to the plate. Let's give them more. But if you don't step up to the plate, if you don't even open the door or even consider it, then you get nothing from the universe. It's not going to waste your time. There are other people who are more aligned to receive and to act on behalf of the passion, on behalf of the work, on behalf of the calling. And so you must rise to the occasion, or just shut the hell up about it when your life is miserable and you ain't doing nothing to change it. So that's what that's about. So here's the thing, because you're asking what if you don't know what we are good at? And here's the thing, the story, he was good at cleaning fish, but he was miserable at it. I was incredibly good at being a store manager, and I achieved a lot as a store manager for Starbucks for many, many years, but it wasn't my passion. And in fact, it was bringing me a lot of misery. I made the best of it and I did what I could with it. But at the end of the day, it wasn't what I had passion for. And so when I was trying to leave Starbucks, and do something else. The first thought in my head wasn't do my business. The first desire in my head was do my business. The first thought was be practical, do something you're good at, get an insurance policy for being successful and to be able to pay your bills and support yourself and be stable. So I was just looking for other management jobs. And I went and was doing all of these, I went, got, second interview, third interviews, whatever, but none of them led to a change. And I was getting very frustrated because I'm like, I don't understand what the problem is. I'm really good at what I do. I feel that I connect with people in a way that they understand and there's something there. Why am I not getting these opportunities to complete? And so either I just needed to accept the fact that I was going to stay at Starbucks, or I needed to be in a position where I was so desperate for change that I was willing to take a risk on something that I actually wanted to do, which is exactly what happened. So once the universe did me a favor by forcing me to focus on something other than that being the option, it focused me and allowed me a chance to actually give myself a try to do this as a living. And that's what I did. And it worked. It worked. And so I know a lot of people who are in the exact same situation, my friend included, but they won't take that next step, which is, you know what? Just do this thing. Don't worry about the strategy, whatever, you're not happy where you've been, just do this. Just do this. Like if you can fit it into your schedule once or twice a week on a regular basis, already that's a step forward. Already that's a change. And it's not about what you're good at, it's about what you enjoy. Even if it's not something you're going to make money off of, who cares if it's not going to make money, if you're going to make money off of it? What if you have a passion for knitting, but you're an accountant and you're really good at being an accountant, that's where your training is in, you hate it, but you do it, right? But you have a passion for knitting. What if you are just knitting and showing people what you're knitting, or you're, doing stuff or whatever, and then a woman comes along and says, hey, I really like your technique. Would you be able to make my baby a blanket? Because I want to have a blanket for my baby. I will pay you $300 for a custom blanket. And you're like, yeah, sure. Why not? But if you're too scared or you're worried that you're going to have to deal with customer service stuff or whatever, then at that point you turn the calling down. But that's an opportunity to express your passion in a way. And what if you just aren't being offered opportunities to do that for money? What if you just want to share it on social media or whatever? And then you're doing it 2 or 3 times a week because it's your therapy and you just enjoy it versus dealing with the accounting. And then what if someone sees you and they're like, I really like this style and I really like how you're doing this every week. Would you help me with my business or actually sell some of my stuff using and promoting it through your channel because you have enough people following you because you're really good at this? And you're like, sure, why not? And then all of a sudden you start creating a brand new business. It's just like with Ray. With Ray, I told her, hey, you really want to change the world. You really want to, stop people from, using and buying and creating waste, and instead creating a sustainable lifestyle or sustainable business. Turn it into the passion. Use it as an opportunity to begin to practice your skills in just giving yourself over to that, allowing yourself to just go into that. Doesn't matter whether it's going to work or not. That's not the problem. That's not your focus. Your focus is just to do it. Before I had this business, I tried my hand on 2 other businesses. You have to understand, it wasn't just this business I was lucky and this took off. No, I tried 2 other businesses before. I tried the smudgekit.com, which was a business where I was making smudge kits and I was trying to promote them. I had magnets on my car and I was trying to sell smudge kits and making a living from making smudge kits. And that didn't really do so well. And so I just gave away smudge kits to all my clients at some point when I got into doing this full time, right? But I was making smudge kits and I was just, wasn't doing anything with that. So that was one business that I tried. And then I also did Reiki, and I just tried only doing Reiki. The thing about it is when I tried doing Reiki, even though I was doing better at Reiki and a business with Reiki than I was doing with the smudge kits, still wasn't my passion, still wasn't the thing that I was in love with, but it was better than Starbucks. But I was only doing that part-time. But in the process of actually doing Reiki, my psychic ability came on after 15 years. And it started working extremely well. And so did not even realize it. But I gave myself over to that process because I just didn't have anything else to focus on at the time. And I still wanted to do something in the industry that we're in the spiritual healing industry. So just doing that allowed me to shift and pivot. And then this came up and was the answer. So what I would say to you is... what do you enjoy doing? What do you enjoy doing? If you like watching episodes of such and such, there's a medium out there, a psychic out there. His entire psychic business is built around housewives of whatever series. So all he does is he basically watches Housewives of this and that, and he spends a lot of time talking to people and making predictions. But he has people following him. He has people coming and watching him, and and he gives them a chance to do something he enjoys. But that works for him, right? That's an opportunity there. So it's about like, what do you enjoy? What do you get a kick out of? What do you have fun with? Do you like going rock climbing? Then start rock climbing on a regular basis, and then form a group of women or form a group of people that want to go rock climbing on a regular basis, or buddy up, and then you can become a rock climbing, coach. So I mean, really, like, it comes down to like it, and it's not about what you're good at. What you're good at is going to be something that you can probably get a job with. What you have a passion for, what you enjoy, is something that gives you joy, whether you're making money off of it or not. You just like doing it. And so even with this, what I do for a living, I love this. This is my passion. Do I want to do it every day? No, because some days I'm tired. Some days I feel burnt out. Some days I definitely have given more than I'm able to recharge. And so some days I don't want to do it. But most days I do. And I honor that. And I still show up even on the days that I don't. So that's what it's about. That's what it's about. And so you have to approach it in that way. If you want the universe to trust you with something that will take care of you, if you honor that passion, then you have to surrender yourself to it. And when I spent the first year fully forming and throwing everything into my business, I sacrificed a lot. I sacrificed a lot of events with family. I said no to a lot of family events. I didn't get a chance to spend a lot of time with my partner. We didn't have as much time together. I wasn't able to go and, have fun with friends. I wasn't able to do a lot of things. And I was exhausted that whole year because I was working a full-time job at Starbucks as a store manager, which was like a 50-hour-a-week gig. And then I was also doing readings in the afternoons. It was exhausting. It was not an easy year, but I did it because I sacrificed myself for the passion, for the calling, for what was summoned from me. And the universe said, he's got it. And here we go. Give him more. And they hell of a lot gave me more. And so here I am, 8, 9, 10 years. I'm almost going to get to a 10-year mark. But, here I am many years later, and I'm able to do it full time. And I'm able to do it so that I can support myself, my partner. I'm able to do it so that I can live the life that I really desired from thinking about winning the lottery. I'm able to live a life that is much better for me. And I'm still able to be a decent human being. I don't have to trick people out of their money. I don't have to try to take money from people. I don't have to charge for every single thing that I do for people. I'm able to give just as much as I get. So, but I honor the calling. And that's what you have to do as well. You have to honor it, or you are not worthy of the calling. And at that point, that's on you. And you have to take accountability for that. Here, look, so here's an example of people and how they misunderstand what psychic ability is. So this person's like, are you a psychic and a legit medium? What is the name and birth date of my recently lost very close loved one? So here's the thing. People in society, people in this world, and it's been going on for a long ass time, and you can blame Hollywood, you can blame just ignorance in the industry. Psychics don't know everything. They don't see everything. They sense things. Just because they can sense things don't mean that they sense everything or sense or see everything. They only sense things. So what people do when they're doing that at that point is they're saying, unless you are 100% accurate with every single thing that you say, you're not psychic or a medium. And there is no real psychic or medium ability if people can't see or sense things 100% accurately. People will come and try to test you because they are too ignorant to understand what this really is, which is what my book is going to be about. Re-educating the population and helping them understand what this is and how this works. It does not work that way, y'all. It is not, I want to know the exact answer and the exact answer is in my head. It doesn't work that way. When you ask a question and you intend to know the answer, you're not getting it spelled out in specifics. You're getting pieces of a puzzle that come to you through thoughts, emotions, and memories. A lot of symbology, a lot of emotional energy, a lot of memorial information. And so you have to get smart enough and good enough that when you receive a piece then you have to take it apart in your head, focus on the pieces that are standing out the most, and then use it. Sometimes that's enough. Sometimes you have to add it to something else and something else. And that's how it works. And so this is not, and so in other words, if you get a person who is from China and you get a person who's from Iran and you get someone who's from France and you have to have them communicate through a translator, the translator will not understand everything accurately. They're only going to get a good chunk of it, but not all of it, because there's a lot of information there and there's a lot of issues with that. Now, add the layer of it that they're not allowed to speak to each other with words or sentences, and they're not allowed to write it out or sign it as like sign language. They're only allowed to give you, it's almost like playing charades, right? When you play a charade. So when I do this, like, what is this? Teapot. That's a teapot, right? Okay, what is this? That's eating, right? That's eating. So if you have someone who is from China where they're doing this, that's not going to make the same amount of sense to someone who's in France who's using a spoon, right? Because they use two different tools. And so there's some differences there in the communication style and in the information. My symbols in my head are different from a person's symbol who is another person's symbol. And the spirit has to use what's in my brain, but at the same time, it's not like they can spell it out in a complete sentence with every single detail clear. It has to be given in bits and pieces, and there's going to be interpretive issues there. That is the problem. And so when you have people who try to test psychics, and there's been plenty of attempts of people to test psychics, you can test for this, but the tests that have been produced by people who are skeptics, they always create a test that does not work properly. Because if you're a doctor, then I don't have to tell you anything. And you can't take any scans. You just have to look at me and tell me what's wrong. You can't analyze what's wrong with me by just looking at me. You're not a doctor. You can't assess. You don't have the ability. That's the same thing. Like, how are you going to do that to a doctor? You can't. You go to if you go to a meteorologist has all these fandangled tools that they use to kind of to interpret data, to interpret themes, trends, etc. And then they have to make a prediction. But there's never 100% accuracy with their prediction. But they still make the prediction. And people still tune in and watch the weather. I'm sure that this fool watches the weather and still bases some things that they do on the weather, but they're not getting a precise 100% accuracy with every single time they tune in, but they trust it because for them, that is something that has been normalized in our society, in our culture. The weatherman, watch the weatherman. He's going to give you a pretty good idea of what to expect. And so if they're wrong, stop using the weather apps, stop using any kind of weather. No, it doesn't work that way. So with psychic ability, mediumship ability, people need to understand what this is and what this isn't. Everybody can do what I do. Every single person can do what I do. So the fact that, are you psychic and a legit medium? I am a psychic and a medium as you are. Every one of us can do exactly what I do and sometimes better. So everybody can do what I do. It's not a question of I'm special and I have this ability and you don't. And no, you can do it too. Why? Because I teach people how to do it. And I've got people who have never done a reading in their lives step into my classroom online Zoom. And I walk them through the procedure of how to tune in, how to get that information, break it up in their head, use it to their advantage. And boom, after their first example or first try, they might get a little bit, maybe not. The second try, once they understand the process and they realize they have to think and perceive things in a different way, wow, they blow themselves away because they did not realize they could sense that clearly or they can understand things in that way. So this is how it is, y'all. So psychic ability is not 100% accurate phenomenon. It is an interpretive, informational experience that is unique to the individual processing the data. That's what it is. And so people who design these tests and these boxes for psychics to fit in, they're going to be always disappointed. And so people like this will always be skeptical. They will never understand it. And they will always be disappointed because they're probably expecting this. And you can't put a sphere in a square peg. You can't do it. You have to understand the phenomenon. Most people don't, who are wanting to test psychics or wanting to put us in a box. They don't understand it. And what I tell people is I've never walked around, and I will be one of the few because I know a lot of psychics out there and a lot of mediums out there who walk around and tell everybody that they are 100% accurate, they're the best, and they don't make mistakes, and they know everything, and I see dead people. No, I don't know a lot of people. I don't know a lot of mediums who see dead people. It's all in our head. When people say, I see dead people, I automatically am like, you do? I'm like, wow, like you physically see them? So can they sign to you or tell you what they want you to know through that so that you can speak precisely? They get stumped, because at that point they've screwed themselves over, because they just tell everybody that they can physically see things, and they're buying into the hype that they've been conditioned to believe in as well. And then when they're caught in the moment, they don't know how to respond, and they can't give you the answer. So you have to understand what this really is. Most people don't. Most people are super ignorant at what psychic ability is, what mediumship is, and how the communication works. And that's the thing. So you have to educate people. And that's what I do first. With every single student, I have to do this with every single student. I have to I have to deconstruct the crap that they thought of as far as what this was, because everybody watches movies, everybody watches this or that, they think it works a certain way. And so they bought into the crap. And so when they come to me, they're expecting me to like flip a switch inside of them and they can operate that way. And I'm like, no. Drop what you were taught or what you think this is and how you think this works. Drop it. Now, let's get realistic with what this actually is, how it actually works, and let's practice it. And the more you practice it, the more information you have to be able to affirm or to verify this ability. And ma'am, check out my website. I don't have to prove myself, because I have plenty of stuff out there that 100% validates that I am a psychic and a medium. So you need to do your homework and look me up. Please look me up, because I got plenty of proof out there, and it's all documented on social media. I'm one of those psychics where I actually show you my misses and my hits. I don't just own my hits and try to get you to ignore or try to avoid my misses. Because I'm 100% honest with what I'm trying to do. So if you go look me up and you go looking into the information, you will realize that I have definitely proven that I have a psychic and a mediumship ability, as we all do, as you do as well. But what you think this is and how you think this works is completely off. You need to re-educate yourself and decondition the bullshit that you bought into, because it doesn't work that way. And if you go looking into my background, and if you go looking everything that I provided with timestamps, I have plenty of receipts, a lot of receipts. And I got a lot of receipts of when I've been right. And they're all out there. You can go check them out. Okay? All right, guys, I'm done. So I got to get to getting, because I got to make dinner. So I love you all, and I will see you.